think people are getting too invested in the antics of Draymond Green. I no longer subscribe to the narrative of blaming Draymond Green. Do I think his antics are extra and unnecessary? 1000%. But you know who's the bigger culprit in the antics of Draymond Green? His co-signers. His co-signers, you ask? The Golden State Warriors organization, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Steve Kerr. Now, Steve Kerr has admitted in the past that Draymond's antics get on his nerve. But you know who overrides Steve Kerr? Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, right? As long as the face of that organization, the faces of that organization co sign and have an unbreakable bond, an ally, an alliance with Draymond Green, their brother, because this group goes beyond championships in the basketball court. These guys are tight for real, for real. They are tight beyond the basketball court. They are brothers for real. And they are brothers that are riding for each other. You cannot separate this group's emotions. And, they grew up in the league together. This is an unbreakable bond. And the Golden State Warriors organization is pretty much held hostage by one of the faces of the league, Steph Curry, and good guy, quote unquote, good guy, Klay Thompson. If they are not tired of Draymond Green, we're all just prisoners. The NBA is beholden to the Golden State Warriors because they are a media darling of the league. Why are they a media darling of the league? Because they got the quote unquote baby faced assassin. Now, I don't believe that that was a national game the other day. I believe I saw it because I have NBA League Pass. But the Golden State Warriors being on television as much as they are, being exposed to the national television audience as much as they are, is because of Steph Curry and the franchise and their championship pedigree. They're on television a lot. And we're all just hoping that Draymond Green makes it through a game without any issue. But you have to ask yourself, can you really at this point continue to blame Draymond Green for being who Draymond Green has always been? He's never had to do anything different. He's never been forced to become a different player. He's always been co-signed by the silent acceptance of his star brothers and Steve Kerr. Because what can Steve Kerr do without Steph Curry? Can you imagine if the Golden State Warriors got rid of Draymond Green against the wishes of Steph Curry? Not going to happen. Not going to happen. So people need to stop expecting Draymond Green to be something different. He doesn't have to be. Draymond Green can write his own ticket. He's got post-career aspirations that are already in place. Colin Cowherd, one of the biggest voices in sports, has him signed to his podcast network. Draymond Green has a job waiting for him at TNT once he retires. He's had no reason to do and be anything different. Why? I can be me. I can be a bad guy. I can make a bunch of money. I can win championships and not have to do anything different. I can step on a guy. I can kick a guy in the groin. I can headlock a guy. I don't have to do anything different. And he knows all of the politics and all of the things that connect him. He's aware. They all are. They co-sign it. And so everybody's outraged. The NBA does not want to deal with this issue. Believe me, they don't want to deal with the issue. I talked about Ja Morant and the league being bigger than Ja Morant. Ja Morant wishes he had Steph Curry clout, brother. And maybe if Ja Morant had won some championships before he started pistol whipping and twirling guns in cars and in nightclubs, but when you don't have a ring that kind of brash in front of the camera, you really just kind of have to sit down and pretend that you are, you really just kind of have to sit down, right? So Draymond Green's antics. I no longer look at Draymond Green. I look at his co-signers. The Golden State Warriors are his co-signers. Steph Curry is a co-signer. It's Klay Thompson, a co-signer. And even more, Klay Thompson isn't the player he used to be, But Steph Curry and that organization, they are not going to say no to that superstar. Mm-mm, mm-mm. They want the championships, they want the fame, and all of that fame comes with this big mouth, antic having performance. All of that fame, all of those championships comes at a cost. If Draymond Green called Kevin Durant a bitch, now this is Kevin Durant, who single handedly, in my opinion, gave y'all 2 additional titles. Draymond Green, Steph Curry, the Golden State Warriors organization, Steve Kerr benefited from Kevin Durant being a part of that organization and taking 2 titles, 2 additional titles from LeBron James. They don't have those 2 additional titles without Kevin Durant. Now, Draymond Green called this man a bitch. Kevin Durant was like, deuces, I'm out of here. They were pissed off that happened, but the bond between Steph Curry, they were like, Kevin Durant leaving, fine, he's gone. But y'all ain't touching Draymond. That's what Steph Curry is saying. No, you're not touching him. So y'all can get off of Draymond because he's had no reason to change. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with all of his antics and performance because I find it annoying. But all of this heat at Draymond, all of this heat at the league, not enough. If the league would stop putting the Warriors on television, maybe we would stop seeing it so much. I mean, they would only be privy to, the local audiences would see it for whatever team they were playing. But Golden State's on television, on national television, way too much. Way too much. And so we get to see a lot of Draymond Green. So that's my thought on that. Now, Rudy Gobert, be self-aware, sir. You are clear, being in a team sport, that you have a certain reputation. Now, I'm not saying that the reputation that you have is justified, but I do think you hide under the slick radar of light-skinned guy with a pretty neat looking image. I believe you are a bit of a cheap shot artist, right? And I think you get to benefit from, hey, he looks like a clean, you kind of have a good boy image. And I think a lot of Rudy Gobert's antics, probably not as bad as Chris Paul, but Chris Paul is somebody else who just kind of benefits from, being a league professional. He's involved in the Players Association and things like that. He's on television, all of these State Farm commercials. Chris Paul has a clean, NBA image. But if you talk to players, they'll tell you that Chris Paul is a bit of a cheap shot artist. I believe Rudy Gobert is an under the radar cheap shot artist. And there's a reason. There's a reason that guys in the NBA have a perception of certain players. Players in the NBA had a perception about Dwight Howard. And I don't care what you say. You may not like the narrative about something, but if enough players sharing that narrative, it must be valid, right? They're on the basketball court, they're on the field, they're having interactions with these players. If a group of players decide that something up with you, or you move a little bit differently, we don't really like the way you move collectively. Hell, even some of Rudy Gobert's teammates when he was with the Utah Jazz, Donovan Mitchell, wasn't all that cozy about Rudy Gobert. That's why they moved him. Why else would you move a quote unquote talent like Rudy Gobert? He had problems in the locker room. He had problems with his group. So Rudy Gobert is aware of his image. And if I'm, this gonna look like I'm supporting Draymond Green and his antics, but given Rudy Gobert's reputation and given what players believe about him, and the vantage point that I saw during this game was the same vantage point that Draymond Green had. Yes, Rudy Gobert is like 7'1", 7'2". Anytime he grabs somebody, it's going to look like he's getting them around the neck. And maybe he was trying to be a peacemaker. I don't know. But bruh, grab your own teammate. You run the risk of escalating something if you just go in. And if you're in arm's reach of your guy, get your guy, right? Especially when if you're going to grab another player that's not your teammate, you better have relationship with that player. And it better be open and obvious that, hey, you have relationship with that player. Case in point, when the Rockets had their little squab with the Lakers, when Brandon Ingram shoved the shit out of LeBron, not no, when Brandon Ingram shoved James Harden. Oh, that was funny. I'm a Houstonian, but I am not a James Harden fan. When Brandon Ingram shoved James Harden, involved with the fight was Chris Paul and Rajon Rondo. This was Rajon Rondo's spit gate when he spit on Chris Paul. And that squabble breaks out between the two of them. You know who LeBron James interacted with and grabbed? LeBron James of the Los Angeles Lakers grabbed Chris Paul of the Houston Rockets. Why was that okay? Because they're boys. They have relationship. Nobody flipped out on LeBron James because he went to grab Chris Paul. It was apparent, common knowledge that they have rapport and relationship. Rudy Gobert, you know you ain't rolling with Klay Thompson like that. If you had a relationship with Klay Thompson like that, Draymond Green wouldn't have come in to grab you by your neck. Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green grabbed Rudy Gobert like he was just waiting on an opportunity. You know, that one time you get sick of your kids, and if they do one more thing, you just looking for them to do one more thing, so you got to snatch them up. Draymond was looking for Rudy Gobert to be involved. Bruh, if you touch him, boom, was on his neck. I'm not saying what Rudy Gobert's intentions were. I'm saying stop looking suspicious, sir. Get your guy. You got to know that the Warriors ain't cool with you. Or you got to know that Draymond Green, you kind of know your rapport, right? And okay, yeah, maybe we could say that he was just in the moment and he just saw a guy and grabbed a guy. No, no, no. When you are in a team sport, you kind of have to work with the unwritten rules. Everybody knows, get your guy, especially if you don't have rapport and relationship with that guy. Or if you're going to get the other guy, you better not have a reputation of being a cheap shot, guy. You better not have a suspicious reputation. Ron Artest couldn't have gone to grab somebody else's teammate, right? Kenyon Martin couldn't have gone to grab somebody else's teammate. Draymond Green can't go grab somebody else's teammate. You get your own guy. Dwight Howard couldn't have went to grab somebody else's teammate. LeBron James likely could. Dwayne Wade likely could. You just kind of have to have an awareness of atmosphere and temperatures between players and between yourself as a player on one team in connection to your place and position in the league and on other teams. You just kind of know. I know how I can move with some people in the group and how I can't. Everybody kind of has a knowing of themselves and how they vibe with somebody else. If you're walking around totally clueless of how the people in the room perceive you, then do nothing. Don't be the first one with your hand in the cookie jar. Just kind of step back. Or if you're uncertain, get the safest person. Get your family member. Don't go grabbing somebody else's family member. So I just, feel like Rudy Gobert was an instigator in that situation. And my gut feeling tells me he was looking for an opportunity to just kind of be messy. Well, let me see what I can get in here. Because Klay Thompson did start the whole thing. Klay Thompson was too rough with McDaniels. He was the reason that whole thing started. And so maybe he was looking to get his lick in on Klay Thompson for pissing off his teammate in the first place. So how do we know that Rudy Gobert was trying to be an innocent peacemaker? We don't. We don't know that he was trying to be a peacemaker. He could have been trying to go after the guy that started the whole thing. And so then we get to Draymond Green, who's already on paper extra. Draymond's extra on paper. And Draymond Green has no reason to curve his behavior. He has no reason to do anything different. So he's just free. Draymond walks around. He is the most free basketball player in the NBA. The way his heat index is when he addresses referees, even referees just kind of like, well, that's just Draymond. Even the referees, you kick Giannis out the game for semi-staring down somebody. Giannis just kind of, he dunked and he did a brief stare down. Draymond Green, dog cussing referees, dog cussing players, right? Nothing happens. And so Draymond Green has more rope than anybody to choke Rudy Gobert. He got a long bit of rope to choke out Rudy Gobert. Why? He gets away with it. If the league would start giving Draymond Green more technical fouls quicker, the way that they're giving technical fouls for hanging on the rim, the way that they're giving technical fouls for staring down, if Draymond Green would start getting technical fouls with that bit of regularity, at that quicker whistles, maybe that would help. Maybe that would help. But as long as the league has decided, hey, we love seeing the Warriors on television. We love Steph Curry. Everybody loves Steph Curry. Put him on television. Well, his teammate's Draymond Green. You're gambling there, right? And then you're gonna pit him against people that he may or may not like. Somebody who's looking for a reason to be silly, looking for a reason to be silly with a Rudy Gobert. So I'm really kind of off of the Draymond Green blame game. Let me say this. Let me go back to this. And, I talked about how Kevin Durant personally handed the Warriors 2 championships, right? Draymond Green sucker punched Jordan Poole. Not sucker punched. He was kind of like right in his face, and Jordan Poole should have known something was coming, right? Draymond Green chest bumped him. Jordan Poole shoved him, and then boom, knocked the young man out. Now, this is supposed to be your rising star, your new talent, right? Knocked him out. When the Warriors, and so people were like, oh, that's the end of Draymond Green. You knocked out a teammate. You punched a teammate. Blah, 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 blah. When Draymond Green was signed to an extension after the punch, bruh, ain't nothing anybody can say to that man at this point. So get off of Draymond Green. What about the Golden State Warriors? Why are you co-signing this shit? Start finding the Warriors organization because he's their child. I don't know what's in the collective bargaining agreement. I don't know how that works out. But the co-signers are the reason that Draymond Green is who he is. But Colin Cowherd used to lead segments on Johnny Manziel, used to lead segments on Baker Mayfield. Colin Cowherd only talks about Draymond Green because he knows he's going to look like a hypocrite if he doesn't. Draymond Green is a star on his Volume podcast platform. He only talks about Draymond Green because he has to. But he is another co-signer. Colin Cowherd was never in on antics like this with any player. I don't care what he says about, and I love and respect Colin Cowherd because I think he's one of the more authentic and transparent voices in sports media. But he co-signs Draymond Green too. He may not like it, but he's never going to say it publicly. That is not an image that Colin Cowherd would ever have co-signed before Draymond Green became a part of his network. And I think he's also in with the Golden State Warriors organization because he talks too much about them in glowing fashions. I mean, at any other point in time, he would have said something about that organization co-signing them. But when you have success, you get to do what you want pretty much. And the Golden State Warriors, they got 4 championships, and they got a light-skinned, pretty boy, baby-faced assassin who has a little bit of a temper, in my opinion. They co-sign it. So, I mean, let's stop the outrage about Draymond Green. If you want your kid to do better, sometimes you have to punish him. And he's their kid, and they're not punishing him. The NBA is concerned about its reputation. Anytime something like this happens, I don't care what people say, but the NBA is the one league, if you don't watch it, the underlying reasons is a bunch of black guys on the court who are kind of thug-like. I don't care what people say. The undercurrent of the NBA is that it's a black league of pampered millionaire athletes, and they don't care. And the NBA fights that perception. I said this about the Ja Morant gun nonsense. They are fighting perception, and they're trying to preserve their image for stars after Ja Morant, for stars after Draymond Green. But when you are a franchise that has the championship pedigree, like the Golden State Warriors, you have more power. And the NBA is just kind of a prisoner of the moment. So when they can sort of singularly snatch a Ja Morant, they'll do that. You're going to sit down 25 games, sir. We're trying to fight image. We're trying to preserve image. We're trying to better image. I don't care if the league has 2 good years of nothing nasty on the basketball court. There is an undercurrent of negative perception with black athletes associated with the NBA. And that malice in the palace that happened years ago, they ain't lived it down yet. You think about hockey and the allowance for fighting in hockey. The allowance. People get out of the way. The allowance for fighting in hockey. This sort of allowance. Baseball has its brawls, but there's a kind of a thing about baseball and their brawls, right? The minute something happens on a basketball court, and I don't know if it's because basketball is more of an intimate setting too. I'm not sure, but if basketball players are on the bench and they come on the court while there's an altercation, and this is after the malice in the palace, they get fined and suspended. Baseball, if there's a fight on the field, everybody comes out the clubhouse. You know, your relievers come from the away far away club. Everybody comes on the field. It's like, what is it, 27 baseball players? I'm not sure. I lose count. But over 50 players on a baseball field when a fight breaks out. That's not an image. Baseball doesn't have an image issue. Why? Because it's not majority black, right? So they don't have that image issue. If baseball was black, if it was a majority black league, there would be a different image and perception every time baseball had a brawl, because they have a couple. That's 182 games. They have these instances, and there's no negative perception about baseball. It is basketball. Football, these guys got on helmets. You can't really see anything, and it rarely happens on the level that it would happen in baseball. It doesn't happen the way that it happens in hockey, and it doesn't happen the way that it happens in basketball. And I would say that there's not a lot of punching that goes on in a basketball game. You know, if a push and shove thing happens. So the NBA is fighting a racial perception. It just is. That's the ugly truth, but it is the truth. And imagine Adam Silver, who supports his players 100%. He supports their social justice issues. He supports racial tension issues. The NBA has the best commissioner, in my opinion. In my opinion. But Adam Silver has the hardest job, in my opinion. Because I don't care what people say about the flag and the kneeling. People are back with football. Baseball has its loyal fans. Hockey has their fans. Adam Silver has the hardest job because he is constantly fighting the wave of perception with his league. And Draymond Green and the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry and Steve Kerr, they're not making his job easier. Every time something like this happens, he probably throws up his hands and says, damn. You know? MMA. You know, people want to talk about NBA guys and being thugs and things like that. But people love to go to boxing. Boxing, a sport where people are allowed to whip each other's ass. MMA, UFC, fighting. But when it comes to a bunch of black guys on the court, we get to, we get a little asthma. And so the perception of the NBA, there is a hidden and unassuming blind perception where this just looks uglier when it happens in the NBA. And Adam Silver knows it. Joe Dumars knows it. And they're trying to do their best to preserve image on top of supporting franchises who display a winning and championship pedigree. When one of the faces of our franchise is a best friend and teammate of one of the NBA's biggest problems. What do? Prisoner. They're not held prisoner by the Memphis Grizzlies. Y'all ain't won shit. Don't nobody care about Memphis. Ja Morant has not won anything. He is not the face of the league. You sit down 25 games. Keep it up. If Ja Morant had won 3 championships, 4 championships, would he have been suspended 25 games? I'm not sure. If he was the face of the league, I'm not sure. But Ja Morant hadn't earned that title. He got taught a lesson. He's not as important as he thought he was. But Draymond Green, an older defensive presence, who is just a Biden enforcer and a security blanket for Steph Curry at this point in his career. I'm not minimizing his talent and his scheming and his ability to support that offense and defense. But everybody keeps talking about how his play has dropped off. And the Golden State Warriors said, F you, Jordan Poole, give us Draymond. Man, I guarantee you, they ran that by Steph Curry. Hey, Steph, one of them got to go. Who you want? Steph Curry rolled his eyes. He probably didn't even bat twice. Don't forget, Steph Curry also threw his mouthpiece during the game because he was frustrated with Jordan Poole. So, I mean, there must be something to the sort of narrative about Jordan Poole being a goofball, but still in the same. He's a young and up and coming star. But, I'm not saying that all of that is just because of Draymond. There had to be a perception about Jordan Poole in that organization for them to ship him out the way that they did. But at the same time, if Jordan Poole had just been an awesome teammate, and then Draymond Green is still here as an awesome teammate, I still 100% believe that the person Steph Curry won his championships with, his brother, Jordan Poole, was still going to go. I don't care what kind of model citizen he was in that locker room. Jordan Poole, you got to go, bro. Hey, nice knowing you. I don't know you like that. Draymond has seen some things. He's kept some secrets. That's my brother, and you got to go. So Adam Silver is being held hostage by the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry. And I wonder if Adam Silver gets on the phone with that organization and say, what in the hell are y'all going to do? Do they just kind of hang up the phone and say, whatever, man. ESPN got us scheduled for 15 games. TNT got us scheduled for 25 games. We don't care. Get off the phone, Adam. Because what's Adam going to do? Their revenue is rolling in. And if they want that team, if they want that package. So who you going to blame? Who's the real villain? Is it really Draymond Green? I'm not so sure. I'm really not so sure. Because it's not like Draymond Green can't be governed. He's not out here blowing red lights and it's just some no good criminal. He can be governed, but he just doesn't have a need to be governed at this point, right? There's no need. He's got co-signers. This is how I've gotten this bit of success. This is how I've gotten to be the man that I am. Who you mad at? Now I'm going to say this about Draymond. I personally don't dislike Draymond as a basketball player and as a person. I like him. I don't like his antics. I wish he would stop that because I think it takes away from the teammate and the player that he is and the person that he is away from the antics. He's not a sore loser. And that, more than his light-skinned teammate Klay Thompson, sore loser. Sore loser. Can't stand that about that dude. Ooh, I got personal. But I love and respect the fact that Draymond stays. He congratulates. And as much as his antics are a part of his game, when he loses like a man. He takes it on the chin. He gives teams credit. I respect that about him. I do. So people talking about Draymond do better. Why should he? Somebody needs to be calling out the Golden State Warriors organization and that baby-faced assassin. So, Rudy Gobert, know your place, bruh. Stop doing all that. Stop trying to get away with stuff. I don't buy that. You, peacemaker, whatever. There's a perception about you for a reason. A reason. And if you're going to try to go in and get somebody else's teammate or just get a body, make sure you have relationship, or make sure there's not any hidden animosity with any of that body's teammates, right? Make sure you know that Draymond Green or anybody else, if it was Jimmy Butler, if you were sideways with Jimmy Butler, don't grab Jimmy Butler's guy. Don't. What do we think about that? Tiffany Gaines, host of the Seekers Podcast. Please like and subscribe. All right. I appreciate the comments. Thanks, everybody.